How often should you change water for cichlids? Most people think it's a schedule question, weekly, bi-weekly, maybe monthly, the kind where you pick a number, stick to it, and stop thinking about it. But that's not really what you're asking. What you want is a routine you can trust, something that lets you stop thinking about the tank every day. You want a number that lets you relax, and that's where most problems quietly start. You treat water changes like maintenance, like brushing your teeth. You do it, you feel clean, and you move on. The tank doesn't work like that. It doesn't know it's Sunday. It doesn't know you did your change. All it knows is what stayed behind and how much room it still has to deal with it. You've seen this tank before. Late at night, lights low, room quiet, fish still moving, still active. And yet the tank feels heavier than it used to. You stand there a little longer than usual. You don't test. You don't change anything. You tell yourself you'll check tomorrow. That moment matters more than most water changes, because that's when attention turns into assumption. At the beginning, you didn't assume anything. You tested everything: ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, sometimes more than once a day. You watched every fish, every movement, every reaction. Back then, the numbers mattered. Fish lived, water stayed clear, nothing dramatic happened. So you relaxed, not because you stopped caring, but because nothing gave you a reason to worry. That's when nitrates start winning, quietly. Now you've got a system. Same feeding, same stock, same water change day, same percentage, same confidence. You tell yourself you don't need to test nitrate anymore because you can feel when it's time. So be honest for a second. When was the last time you actually tested nitrate instead of assuming it was fine? Not guessed, not it should be okay. Tested. You already know the answer. This is where most cichlid keepers fall behind. Not because something goes wrong, but because nothing does. Nitrates don't get ahead of you by spiking. They get ahead by staying quiet. So let's slow this down and walk through it the way it actually happens. You start clean. Nitrates are low. The first week passes. Same fish, same feeding. Waste builds, because it always does. You test, and you see 40. That number doesn't scare you. You've seen worse. You do a 50% water change. It feels responsible. Now you're at 20. That feels safe, controlled. But nothing reset to zero. Week 2 starts at 20. Same tank, same feeding, same load, another 40 stacks on top. End of the week, you're at 60. You do the same 50% change. Now week 3 starts at 30, then 40, then 50. Every single week starts higher than the last, even though you didn't miss a single water change. Nothing crashes. No fish die. Water stays clear. The filter hums like it always does. And that hum is lying to you. The filter isn't fixing nitrates. It's buying time. Dilution isn't control. It's delay. And delay feels safe. You walk past the tank like you always do. Clear water, clean glass, fish moving. You don't stop because nothing looks urgent. And that's the moment nitrates are already ahead of you. Something feels off though, not enough to panic, just enough to notice. Colors don't hit like they used to. One fish gets pushed more, another hides longer. You tell yourself it's aggression or personality, or that's just cichlids. That explanation feels good because it means the water isn't the problem. So you adjust rocks, maybe reshuffle territory. For a few days it looks better. That relief is dangerous because it teaches you the wrong lesson. Weeks pass, the tank still looks fine. Feeding looks aggressive, but it isn't clean anymore. Chases last longer. Recovery takes more time. You notice it again. This time you tell yourself it's stocking. Maybe the tank's just a little full. Maybe that one fish is the problem. You consider pulling him, then you don't. Nothing is on fire yet. A month later, you notice something else. One fish doesn't cross open water anymore. He sticks close to cover. He still eats, just slower. You call it personality. That explanation feels safe. You've used it before. Meanwhile, the water is slowly making the tank harder to live in. Some fish feel it sooner, others don't. The stronger ones notice first. Stress goes up, recovery slows, immune systems dip, and you still don't act because nothing died. That's how cichlid tanks hide problems better than most setups. The fish don't shut down when things slide. They keep moving, they keep eating, they keep defending space. And all that activity convinces you the tank is healthy, even while the room is slowly getting tighter. The dominant fish feels it too. He works harder, defends more, burns more energy, and when the water pushes back, he doesn't calm down. He tightens control with longer chases, tighter corners, and more pressure for everyone else. You didn't buy an aggressive fish. You lost breathing room, and when you finally react, you do what everyone does. You add rocks, pull a fish, change the layout, and for a moment it looks better. not because the problem left, but because you moved it, while the water itself never changed. Regular water changes slow this down, but they don't reverse it, because it's the same feeding, the same stock, and the same routine shaving the top off pressure while it keeps stacking underneath. You shave the top off pressure, but it keeps stacking underneath, and most people don't notice it happening because nothing feels urgent yet. There's a moment almost everyone recognizes when you skip a test, not because you forgot, but because the tank looked fine and you didn't feel like you needed it. That's the trap, because tanks don't fail when you ignore them. They fail when they convince you there's nothing left to check. Time keeps moving, a few more weeks pass, maybe a couple of months, and then something small shows up. A fish gets injured and takes longer to heal, another one develops cloudy eyes, and the feeding response isn't as sharp as it used to be. That's when you react with extra water changes, more media, deep cleaning, and loud fixes, and for a moment the tank responds, not because the root problem was fixed, but because you finally knocked pressure down. That relief feels like proof that waiting was the right call, and that's a dangerous lesson to learn. Different cichlid setups hide this pressure in different ways. Lightly stocked tanks complain early, fish slow down, color fades, feeding response drops, and you feel it fast enough to act. Heavily stocked cichlid tanks don't do that. They absorb pressure and keep moving, which is why people think overcrowding calms cichlids. Even though it doesn't calm them at all, it just delays consequences. Waste doesn't disappear, feeding doesn't get lighter, and the tank looks busy instead of stressed. All male tanks hide it even better, with constant display, constant motion, and heavy feeding to keep color sharp, no breeding drama, no obvious cycles, and everything feels stable while pressure quietly stacks underneath. Mbuna tanks hide it behind rockwork, where chases disappear from view and territories compress instead of exploding. So you read it as Mbuna being Mbuna, and nitrates get more time. Peacocks and Haps do the opposite. They fade while still eating and still moving, just with less edge. And instead of testing water, you reach for more food or color boosters, pushing the system harder in the exact direction it's already failing. That's why water change advice online feels contradictory. Weekly works, monthly works, bi-weekly works, and they all work until they don't, because frequency doesn't matter if pressure keeps stacking underneath. Two tanks can run the same schedule and end up in completely different places, one still forgiving mistakes while the other is already tight. From the outside, they look identical, but inside, one absorbs errors and the other punishes them. Most people change water based on guilt, not need, miss a week, feel bad, do a change, and feel responsible again. Even though the tank doesn't reset because you feel better, it only resets when pressure actually drops. Big tanks fool people even harder because volume buys time, and a 6-foot tank can hide problems for months while a smaller tank would have complained early. That delay feels like success, and when the buffer finally runs out, the collapse feels unfair because nothing changed. That's the real trap. Cichlid tanks reward bad habits first, giving you long stretches where everything looks fine, and that reward trains you to trust routine instead of feedback. Once that happens, water changes, stop being a tool, and quietly turn into a ritual. So how often should you change water for cichlids? Often enough that the tank never gets comfortable holding pressure, and often enough that behavior stays loose instead of tight. That answer doesn't fit on a chart. It has to be read from the fish. Look at who eats last, who recovers slower, and who stopped crossing open space, because those are water change signals long before nitrate becomes a crisis number. Change water before the tank asks loudly. Test when things feel calm instead of when they fall apart. And break routine before routine replaces attention. If this felt familiar, that's a good thing, because it means you've seen this tank before. If this video made you uncomfortable, good. That means you recognize something you've already seen in your own tank. Most people scroll past that feeling. They wait. And that's when tanks make decisions for them. Stop for a second. What size tank are you running? How often do you really change water? And when was the last time you tested nitrate instead of assuming it was fine? Put it in the comments, not for feedback, just so you don't lie to yourself. If you've ever had a tank that looked perfect and then wasn't, you already know this wasn't bad luck. This channel is for people who want to see problems before they show up. If that's you, subscribe. You won't unsee what comes next. Click the video on your screen and let's meet there.